Welcome to Dateline Schools, a presentation of the St. Clair County Regional Educational Service Agency, with your host, Chris Troy.
Education in America has changed greatly over the last decade, and it is an important task teachers and administrators take to make sure that their students are being taught with the most up-to-date techniques. One of those new programs is the Building Thinking Classrooms K-12 Math by Peter Liljedahl. And to tell us more about it is the director of St. Clair County RESA's Math and Science, Jim Licht. Jim, thanks so much for joining us this week on Dateline Schools.
It's great to be here.
So Jim, you've been involved in education for quite a few years. When did you kind of get started?
I got started teaching, and that was around 1990. I taught for 16 years in the Sandusky school system, and then I was hired at RESA as a consultant to work with St. Clair Tech and also at the Ed Services.
And kind of your specialty is mathematics?
Yes.
And what is it about mathematics you love so much?
Well, when I decided that I wanted to get into teaching, mathematics was something that I had a passion for, and it was something that I wanted to pursue.
I've got to imagine, Jim, that over all the years you've been involved in education, you've seen a lot of changes.
Definitely. Things come and go. They circle around and come back again. But there are a few things that have kind of stuck out in my mind as far as being something that will really change math classroom and really have positive impact on students. One of them is Building Thinking Classrooms, which is based on the work by Peter Liljedahl. And right now we are running a professional development for St. Clair County teachers, and we have some administrators in our session right now, in order to kind of spread the word about what his philosophy is, how to change a classroom in order to be more effective, and to get students thinking, because we know that students don't learn unless students think.
Jim, Building Thinking Classrooms in Mathematics. Tell me about that program and tell me a little bit about the author.
The author is Peter Liljedahl, and he was a Canadian math teacher, and he got started when one of his colleagues asked him to come in and observe the classroom. And when he got in there, he observed certain things, certain behaviors of students, different things that the teachers were doing, and he decided that this was something he wanted to pursue because he was getting his master's degree. So he went around and asked different districts to go in and observe their best teachers. And so he started with that. And what he was finding out is that no matter what classroom he went into, he was seeing the same types of student behaviors, same types of classroom setup and teacher interactions with the students. And he decided that he wanted to see if he could make things better. So his philosophy was, well, if this isn't working, what if we tried the exact opposite? It's very contrarian.
Is this a nationwide program, or is this something that they're starting off in a small group throughout the country?
That's the way it did start, but now it's nationwide. I mean, you'll see Peter Liljedahl was at the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics conferences. He goes all around the world. Since his initial research, he's done more research to have included different countries other than Canada and the United States. And but what he always does is just confirms his research. And what he would do is he would come in and he would try these contrarian things, and he'd find out that they worked, but he took him a while to find out why they worked. And it had to do with student attitudes and behaviors.
Jim, you previously mentioned that when Peter Liljedahl came into a classroom, he observed many different things. What were some of his observations and his concerns?
Okay, he was observing students as the lesson was progressing, and again, this is based on literally hundreds or thousands of classrooms that he looked at, and he kind of pigeonholed the behaviors into 5 different things. Of course, as a teacher, you want to go up there, you want to demonstrate how to do a math problem, and then let them try, and then have them go out and have everything be great. Well, he found out that worked with about 20% of the kids. 80% of the kids, he noticed some different behaviors. One of them he labels as slacking. And these are the kids who just, they didn't do anything, they didn't care, and they didn't know. Because what he did, which was brilliant, is to just talk to the students and find out what was their motivation and why they were behaving the way they were. So slacking, they don't care, or they don't know how to do it, which is another thing. We have another, about 10% of the students who he said were stalling. They were sharpening their pencils or doing whatever they needed to do, and it was usually because they didn't know how to do it, and they were just waiting for the teacher to tell them how to do it. Another 5 or 6% were just faking it. They were just looking busy, and then probably taking it home and having somebody help them with it. The biggest group, about 53%, were just mimicking what the teacher had taught them. If there was 3 steps to do a problem, they would go through and they would do the 3 steps, and they would, work on their homework. Problem with that is that when the problems got a little bit harder, they didn't know what to do.
So his whole goal then was to take that information and come up with a way to help these kids.
Exactly.
So, Jim, we talked about identifying the students, what their strong points are, what their weak points are, how engaged they are. What are some of his plans to implement this program?
According to Peter, the Building a Thinking Classroom, he came up with 14 things that a teacher could enact in their classroom in order to help improve how much the students are doing thinking in their classroom. The first 3 are the most important. They are choosing a task, how their students are grouped, and where the students work. He found out those are the 3 things that you can change and get the most bang for your buck, so to speak.
And what would be the benefit of each one of these 3 tools?
Well, first of all, choosing the right task, because he found out that, if you want students to think, you have to give them something to think about. So he has different ways that you can choose tasks. He has it divided in between curricular and non-curricular and when to use those. The second piece of it is how students are grouped. He found that in order to get the most behavior to, we talked about slackers and fakers and stallers. In order to counteract that is to put them into groups of 3, he found was ideal. If you have much more than 3, then you start seeing that stalling and faking and slacking behavior.
Now, in working in teams like that, is each one of them kind of assigned a portion to come up with the answer? Or is it almost a peer pressure kind of thing where you're not contributing? Come on, we got to solve this problem.
Actually, it's kind of a little of each. And again, how it takes effect, it depends on the particular task that they're trying to solve.
And number 3?
Number 3 is where the students work. When he walked into his classrooms, he saw rows and columns. He completely disrupted that, and rather than have students work at their tables, he has them work on a vertical, non-permanent surface. So they're up against a wall with a whiteboard, at a whiteboard. I've seen them do it on windows as their non-permanent. The idea is that the students are less intimidated and are willing to try things more if they know that they have a surface that they can change.
So, Jim, over the last few months and coming up a little bit, you've been hosting professional learning programs for administrators. What's the feedback been like?
Well, the professional development has both teachers and administrators in there, and also math coaches, district math coaches. So far, I believe that we got a very good response. Of course, you got to remember that Building Thinking Classrooms is kind of a national thing. Some of the teachers have heard about it. For example, MCTM did a book study last year with this, and if they've gone to a conference recently, there's usually sessions on Building Thinking Classrooms. So our goal is to try to get the word out, so to speak, to math teachers throughout any of our districts in St. Clair County to gain interest in learning more about this and hopefully create some lasting change for the better.
Is Building Thinking Classrooms and mathematics the type of program you need to just commit 100% to, or can you dip your little toe in the water and try portions of it?
It's the second one. I mentioned the three things that to get started with, and those are the three things that have the best impact as far as improving thinking in the classroom. It would be very difficult to try to say all of a sudden I'm going to do all 14 things. I mean, that would be such a drastic change. So yes, you do have to kind of roll them out in order to be successful with them.
And can you just kind of, maybe for those who didn't listen yesterday, kind of just quickly recap what the first important three things were?
Yes. Choosing the correct task, how the students are grouped. They're grouped into groups of 3, and it's done randomly, not by design. And that's he found out that's an important step, and also where the students work, to get them out of their seats, up against the vertical surface, by a wall, so that they can do their work and discussion there.
Well, Jim, it's been really interesting this week learning about new programs that are being implemented, hopefully in the St. Clair County schools. And to just know that there's folks like yourself and your team that are out there looking for answers to improve education. Thank you so much for joining with us this week. For Dateline Schools, I'm Chris Troy. Dateline Schools is a presentation of St. Clair County RESA.